We are joined by Praful Ketkar, senior journalist and editor of Organizer, who's going to talk to us about the Prime Minister's reply to the motion of thanks to the President's address in the Lok Sabha. Thank you, Mr. Ketkar. Now, Prime Minister was, his speech was full of wit and sarcasm, political sarcasm. So, he said that some people feel that they are not mature enough unless they talk about foreign policy. And he talked about the reference to a book called JFK's Forgotten Crisis. Now, this deals with India's complacency in the 1962 war and also addressing the growing military threat from China. What exactly was the Prime Minister conveying?
Good evening, Mark.
Yeah.
This was an address on motion of thanks. That is the actually presidential address to the joint sitting of India's Parliament, and while doing so, President generally presents the complete picture of government's program for the year, and that's why this address is considered as very important. Now, while generally discussion takes place on the address, and yesterday the main opposition leader, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, passed a remark. He was in an attacking mode, and while making all other allegations, he also said that India's land has been acquired by a neighbor, and armed forces and Prime Minister are contradicting each other, which was, of course, immediately countered by the Parliamentary Affairs Minister. Okay. But the point is, today, while dealing with all those issues, Prime Minister gave a very befitting reply with a political acumen.
Yes.
When on the one hand, he actually enlisted the achievements of his government for last 10 years. But at the same time, he, sarcastically mentioned, as you rightly said, that the actual whatever land that intrusion and external invasion that have taken place, that was during the first Prime Minister, Mr. Pandit Nehru's time.
Okay.
And while referring to it, he said, "You first, please understand the historical facts, and if you don't know, please go through this book." And because this particular book talks about the way India handled foreign policy, the way India was offered United Nations, permanent seat in the Security Council, the way last moment, earlier President Kennedy was offering help in terms of Air Force cover to India. And then in the later half, Mr. Nehru was actually requesting to, giving a call to the US to help in fighting against the China war. So all these developments are so without directly mentioning and getting into the rhetorics about the India-China relationship, because presently it is at a very critical stage. We are in, after a long time, we are again on a talking terms. We have agreed to certain steps which are confidence-building measures. So Prime Minister didn't want to make a direct reference, but because again and again, Mr. Rahul Gandhi is making a reference on two counts, that the way China has progressed and what we are doing. And secondly, on foreign policy and strategic options issues, he's trying to corner the government. And that's why Prime Minister categorically made those remarks.
So moving on to another point that the Prime Minister raised, he talked about the salaried class now will pay no income tax until they reach there's a threshold of 12.75 lakh rupees. So this is the magnitude of this relief for the middle class, is not lost. I mean, it's something that people need to understand. Earlier it was 2 lakhs is what the Prime Minister talking about. Now we are talking about 12.75 lakhs. And this was, it's going to put a lot of money in the hands of the middle class, yes.
Oh yes, it is a purely, a classic consumption-oriented growth that is on which this government is banking on. What Prime Minister said, that when he took over in 2014, in his first term, it was a 2 lakh limit when it comes to the zero tax as far as the salaried income goes. Now, what has changed in last 10 years, he explained in a beautiful manner. He said there were too many wounds in the economy and on the middle class. We tried to heal those wounds, and now this is the last treatment that we are giving. So indirectly, what he was suggesting that why we could not give this kind of relief earlier, he was giving an explanation also.
Right.
So, but slowly, step by step, how the income limit has increased budget by budget. Till last budget, it was around 7.5 lakh rupees.
Right.
Now it has increased up to 12 lakh, which is a massive increase.
Indeed.
So it shows two things. One, Indian economy is in a solid, the foundation are very strong. Secondly, now government in a position to leverage those strong foundation for taking a leap forward. And that's why government could pass on those benefits and now relying on the either savings or consumption by the middle class. This
Right.
also shows, Mark, that the idea of middle class, the range, now we are talking about 12 lakh rupees per year, which is relatively a massive income. It
Yes.
means in the very definition of being a middle class has changed now. So
Indeed.
It also shows the way India's growing middle class and its aspirations and how
exactly.
the government is responding to it.
In fact, Prime Minister also, talked about the government living by the Constitution and its spirit. Constitutional status has been given to the OBC Commission. Those with the Constitution in the pocket is what he was talking about. They had compelled Muslim women to live a life of troubles. Can you comment on this?
See, Mark,
Here again, the political
time
sarcasm.
and again, this government and especially Prime Minister Modi has been questioned on whether he's following the constitution, and the accusations were made during 2024 Lok Sabha elections that its constitution will be changed if this government is returned to power, and that is why Prime Minister said that constitution is not just about carrying it in a pocket, or constitution is not just about the articles that are mentioned in it. It is about the spirit of the constitution, and spirit of the constitution lies in we the people. So the overall message that Prime Minister was trying to give was, he gave a couple of examples when he said, I became Chief Minister in Gujarat, I compiled the speeches of all the governors, like President gives the joint address to the Parliament. In India, the state legislatures, the governor gives the address. So he compiled the speeches of all the governors, irrespective of who was in power. It gave a complete picture of how India's policy thinking evolved. So he said that shows. Even he gave the example of PM museum. Where again sarcastically remarked that some people want to have museums only of their families. Now I want to have it for all the prime ministers and their contribution to independent India. So this collective spirit, where irrespective of party in power, certain decisions, certain consensus building takes place, and this we the people is reflected.
Mr. Ketkar, we are running short of time, so let me just put in one more question. The government's focus is on the double AI. You talked already about aspirations. Artificial intelligence and aspirational India is what the Prime Minister said. And here again, the political sarcasm, because the political opponents, he says, use the AI as an amusing term.
Oh yes, because there was a remark about using AI for caste census. Artificial intelligence and sovereign artificial intelligence, the way government has, specifically mentioned about the National AI Mission. Now, rupees 500 crore has been allocated specifically for, promoting research on it. And then the Center of Excellence has been created. Already 3, as the Finance Minister also talked about, various initiatives are already being taken. So when the world is actually now competing between OpenAI and DeepSeek, one led by the US, the other by China, India
Yes.
is not lagging behind. That was
Yes.
the message. And if we have to
Right.
move forward in that direction, then aspirational India, the innovative India, the youth of India has
Right.
to contribute in this process. And public-private partnership is going to actually make a huge difference when
Right.
it comes to realizing our objectives as far as having some our own AI
Right.
platforms, which will give more autonomy and sovereignty when it comes to operations of
Right.
AI.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Praful Ketkar. Thank you for joining us and enlightening us on this. Indeed, the Prime Minister did speak also about India's youth power.